Right, this Warwickshire town of Brinklow has a stunning geographic feature. This impressive grassy mound, known locally as the Tump. You can see amazing views of the surrounding countryside, and there's loads of weird folklore with Fortean phenomena connected with it. And there is this small parking area on L Street, and it has a gate which takes you directly to the motte. And it's said that Brinklow Hill and its earthworks represents one of the best preserved motte and bailey castles in the country. The castle would have been a timber structure built as part of William the Conqueror's northern campaign in 1069. But it was probably only needed for a short period, so it was never reconstructed in stone. It seems that the Normans found an existing structure here, probably a large prehistoric burial mound that the Romans probably used as a signal station as well. And the Normans probably enlarged the motte and constructed the bailey we see today. As you can see, the hill is a flat-topped motte, well over 50 foot high, surrounded by a ditch and a double bailey enclosure, which we'll get to in a minute, and it covers almost 1 hectare, and the ditch is full of water today, which shows you where it is better. Now the Foss Way, which is a Roman road running from Exeter to Lincoln, and it deviates in its usual straight course at the hill, and only here. It goes round the motte, so it must have been here when the Romans arrived. And I can't find any evidence of excavation, so it's not known for certain whether it was the final resting place of some ancient Celtic chieftain or some other use. But there has been some form of settlement or human activity long before the Normans built this castle and the fine church. Now there are tales of UFO activity, alleged satanic murders, and various ghost sightings, making the hill one of the most mysterious sites in Britain. And many Brinklow residents have commented about the hill and its unusual atmosphere, and some residents have been witness to some very strange phenomenal activity. In the 1980s, the occupants of a vehicle passing the Tump reported that they spotted an archer who appeared to be practicing archery on top of the hill. They said as a bush blocked their view as they were driving by, temporarily. When it come back into view, he was nowhere to be seen. And there are many claims of a macabre haunting at Brinklow Hill. Many witnesses tell of seeing a sinister dark figure in Victorian-like clothes, often standing on top of the hill. And strange electrical anomalies are reported to occur in the area at the time the ghost is seen. Now, it was way back in 1982. There was one night when dozens of local people claimed to have seen the ghost standing ominously on Brinklow Hill. And the hill was hit by multiple strikes of lightning and blasted apart 3 trees that had stood on top of the hill for decades. And for over a century, the same ghost was said to haunt both the hill and the Raven Inn that stands just below it. So not only was the ghost of the dark Victorian figure said to be seen in the bar, but frightening poltergeist activity was reported by both landlords and patrons. Now sadly, in 1865, a young serving girl named Sarah Haynes was claimed to have been found strangled on Brinklow Hill. And a self-proclaimed Satanist named John Lang, who was a member of an occult society that met at nearby Coombs Abbey, fell under suspicion for the murder. And sometime later it was reported that Lang himself was to disappear, and both the murder and his disappearance remained unsolved. So it makes you wonder that if Lang was an occultist, could he have been aware of the connection between Brinklow Hill and dark mystical powers and sun worship? Because in magical tradition, Lucifer, the light bringer, was a sun god and a brother of Diana, the moon goddess. Not to be confused with the Christian Lucifer. And if Sarah Haynes was murdered near the midsummer solstice, it could indicate this, so the theory has it. I also read about a psychic quest that was said to have took place in the 1980s, and the reports say that a physical medium with her companions sensed something curious was buried on the hill, and using dowsing rods, 2 6-inch daggers were retrieved, which were buried on either side of the entrances to the site. Now, when the group were driving home, they noticed that the dowsing rods, along with the dowsing rods, appeared to be moving and jumping excessively on the back seat of the vehicle. And apparently at the same instant they noticed a mysterious light above the trees to the left of the road, and it soon moved to the centre of the road in front of them, causing them to brake. Then, moving towards them, it hit the road close to the front of them, and the light then increased speed and caused a sound of a whoosh as it passed and rocketed the car. They then claimed to have watched the light as it disappeared around a bend on the road. They were later said to have contacted a research organisation who reported that the only ball lightning reported was in the north of Scotland. Did this really happen, and was the experience related to the successful finding of the daggers? Did they piss some spirit off? Now, stretching across Warwickshire, there are a series of leys and dragon lines, and one of them runs through Brinklow. And it's said to begin at Coombs Abbey, as I mentioned earlier, where the alleged occult society of John Lang used to meet. And there's a small and inconspicuous mound, only 40 foot in diameter, 3 feet high, indicating another ancient site. The line then continues along the Fossway through Brinklow Hill and close to the Easenall Church and a nearby earthwork there. Then the ley line continues to a mound south of Cotton House, a few miles on. Yeah, it's an east-west alignment with at least 2 churches associated with it. But further investigation needs to be carried out before I'm sure about that. But it's very coincidental. St John the Baptist Church in Brinklow. It was built in 1215. It was an early Norman church, although it's been extensively altered later in history. And it's likely there's long been a site of some religious or sacred significance where the church stands today. And although there are no records as far as I know for an earlier church, the very name of Brinklow suggests an Anglo-Saxon presence. Now, the great Roman roads such as the Fossway directed settlements of the incoming Anglo-Saxons, and with it passing around the village it could indicate this. Also, the location of Anglo-Saxon burial sites and cemeteries often coincides with Roman roads and Romano-British settlements. Now, originally the invading newcomers were pagan, but by the end of the 6th century had converted to Christianity. These early Christians built small wooden churches to serve their spiritual needs, often on or close to pagan sites like Brinklow Mine. So it seems very possible to me that just as the Normans exploited the existing mound for their castle, the Anglo-Saxons may have well sited their church on previous established religious grounds. And in the 14th century, the present tower was built, and also the south porch. And the window to the north side of the church are probably the earliest remains of the old church. And in 1642, civil war broke out in England, and Warwickshire fell early to the parliamentary forces. And these Puritans believed that ornaments and decorations in churches distracted worshippers from a true contemplation of God. And at this time, many Brinklow's church treasures disappeared or were damaged. Now, the authorities of Oliver Cromwell took religion very seriously, as you can guess, and attempted to improve the nation's moral health through legislation. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, anything thought to encourage poor moral health was banned. Theatres were suppressed as instruments of the devil. Maypoles were taken down and forbidden as echoes of pagan fertility rites, which, to be fair, they probably were. And then, as now, the demon drink was held to be the cause of loutish, unmannerly, and even sinful behaviour. In them days it was the church controlling us, nowadays it's unelected leaders.